This week on the Davenport Podcast.
If I walk in and there's cheddar cheese, I walk right back out.
So you use them, but you feel guilty about it. Perfect.
Oh, there's so much more like swagger than there was.
Top ramen is the Totino's party pizza of the ramen world.
Planking on the hedge and just fell into it, and that hedge is not recovered.
I never had a roommate that wet the bed.
Wait, what's the slope?
I know, I've never heard of a
Is
slope.
this geometry? What?
I just put my hands on my hips like such a mom.
We went from the Emperor to Fozzie Bear.
You're not a bad person because of negative feelings.
Right.
You're a human.
We're thrilled to have Wendy with us. Wendy's one of our first interviewees, so we're excited to have her on the podcast today. She prepared a little bio that I'd like to read and make sure I get everything in there. Wendy is a woman committed to owning and living out her values and gifts. She is a wife who wants the best marriage with her husband of 18 years. She's a home birthing, homeschooling mom of 3 who wants to truly know, raise, and parent her kids. She's also a coactive coach who is passionate about relationships, parenting, empowering women, and natural birth, and a longtime artist for Trader Joe's, and an avid home cook and baker. She's also a drinker of Earl Grey tea, and most importantly, a lover of Jesus. Welcome to the podcast, Wendy.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
That's an amazing intro, by the way. I was like, hey, just send over a little quick bio. And I was like, oh, she's sending it. Like,
I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Oh, that's good. I liked the intro because Guy knows you personally, but I'm just meeting you for the first time. And that's a lot. It's just a really organic person. I like that.
Thank you.
That's neat.
I think my intention in that is that, I think that we underestimate our capacity and what we can accomplish in a day and what we can do if we set our mind to it. And I've done that for myself so often for so many years, and being able to write it all down and think, wow, I do those things. And I also homeschool my kids, which is it's a moment to feel proud for sure.
and just for some added context, Wendy, you and I met in a training course for CTI, Coactive Training Institute, which is a coaching education series, and connected. We did exercises together, and it was very fun to kind of personally grow through that course and get to know you better through that. So when we were thinking of who to have on here and people in my coaching circle, I was like, oh, we got to have Wendy on.
Thank you.
So thank you for accepting and coming on today.
Of course. I have great memories of eating delicious food alongside you and other coaches, but you were the instigator. You made it happen.
I'm the guilty foodie, right? Yeah, there's the...
Yes, because my husband and I go out with Guy and Aaron quite a bit because they will eat anything.
It's a wonderful trait.
What does that mean?
Anything within reason, but also gets me to try things that I wouldn't normally try. Ramen, right? Let's talk about ramen. If you're friends with Guy and Aaron, you've gone for ramen in some pretty amazing places. And I can say I've never had ramen till we became friends with Guy and Aaron. Besides top ramen, like in high school.
Sure.
19 cents a package.
We're human. Yeah, we've all had top ramen.
Top ramen. Ugh.
Even the homeschoolers have had top ramen.
Even my kids know top ramen's not good.
It's sacrilegious. It's like how I am with Mexican food because I've lived in Central America. And so if I walk in and there's cheddar cheese, I walk right back out. I'm like, and if they sell burritos, I'm like, that's not Mexican food.
Yep. Top ramen is the Totino's party pizza of the ramen world. Okay, let's jump back into it then. Homeschooling.
Yes.
You're all about homeschooling. We wanted to talk about that today because so many people are winging it, right? I think historically, like when I was growing up in Washington, the homeschool kids, there was kind of 2 categories. One was the Christian schools, and they weren't really homeschooled, but they were separate from the public school system. And we had a family in our neighborhood that was in that school. And then there was the homeschool that was, I'll call it artistic. They were kind of an artistic type thing where it maybe formed out of the 70s, kind of hippie kind of feeling. And, didn't believe in plastic bags for their sandwiches and made their own granola and, that kind of stereotype, total stereotype.
Sure.
And it's so different now. And so I think that's why we're excited to talk to you because you've been doing this. You're a modern woman. You live in a modern world.
I don't sew clothes. My kids do not match.
You may be guilty of making your own granola.
I do make granola.
Do you use Ziploc bags?
I do.
Okay, good.
But I try not to very often.
Yeah.
I can make a box last several months.
So you use them, but you feel guilty about it. Perfect.
Well, it's not the same as that shame that you were speaking of in the intro, but
No shame.
No
But
shame.
I think this is an episode that a lot of parents will want to listen to, because I get it even in my practice, people trying to make this decision and trying to figure out, am I cut out to be a homeschool parent? And I think you have to be honest with yourself too about your relationship with your child, knowing your child well enough to know, because even if you don't elect homeschooling, you're still making a parental decision for your child and for your relationship more than their education. I think
Absolutely.
so. And so I think it's important that we talk about that difference as well. And before you do that, will you tell us the ages of your kids and what grade they're in? And just, that's helpful, I think, for context with us.
Yes, our kids we're in birthday season, so I have to think about it. We have a 5-year-old in kindergarten, a 7-year-old who is in 2nd grade, and then our 9-year-old in 4th. Yeah, and we have done homeschool with them the entire time.
So they've never been enrolled in a public school.
We are currently enrolled in a public charter school.
Oh, okay.
That's all done from home. But so, yeah, over the years, I would say the intensity of our actual education and learning process has shifted depending on how old everybody is. Do we have a baby in the house who needs to nap? And what is my work schedule? All of those things will determine how hard we go after everyone's school year. But we've taken it much more seriously in the last couple of years just due to the age and nature of our kids. They need more.
Yeah. So you mentioned charter school, but it's part of the public system, but because this is, even before you and I talked about this, I had no idea. I thought it was like, I've withdrawn my children and we're just making it up at home and doing our thing, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And it's way more structured than that.
It is. Charter schools are a part of the public school system. They are free, and typically you'll get some level of funding, the state tax funding, instead of it going to running a facility and having teachers and a bunch of staff and all those overhead costs. That money will instead go directly to each student in an account that then the parents, acting as their teacher, get to choose how to spend it. So extracurriculars, curriculum, different experiences, field trips, a lot of things. There's a lot of things you can do with it.
Does it come with teachers?
Yes, you do
Comes
get
with
assigned.
teachers.
Well, and so I speak from my own experience. So right now, being in California, that's my experience with charter school. We are assigned to a school within the county, and then everything is done, at home. And we have a teacher who checks in with us every 5 weeks. We have a meeting with her. We have to upload and send in work samples, and we are a part of placement tests and state testing, a lot of the same things that you would have in a public school, but we just have a lot more freedom of choice.
Okay, so you said that standardized testing. So there's testing, there's all that accountability is there. It's not like you're figuring out your lesson plan at night and being like, oh, this sounds good, let's just do that. Maybe
Yes
some of
and
that's
no.
there.
Yes, we are doing the lesson plan for sure, because we're only checking in with the teacher. Our teacher, shout out to Miss Monica, she is available all the time. I can text her, email her, and she gets right away back to me. But she's not actually teaching the kids. She is more of the person who approves all of the ways that we spend our funding. She talks over our goals for each learning period, and she's our number one contact person.
Okay, so you're, just for terminology, you're the teacher. She's more of an admin that helps counsel the teachers.
Yes.
Okay.
She does also happen to be a teacher by just through her education and through her experience.
Her background, yeah.
And her whole background is in that. And she's a wonderful resource for everything, because we are just parents who aren't teachers. And so to take on all of a sudden the education of 3 very different, unique humans, all at different grade levels, and have no experience with how to even deal with early childhood education, everything. We're learning as we go. So to have somebody who knows the ins and outs and who is supportive and a cheerleader and an advocate for our success is so priceless for me.
So with that, then, that's homeschooling kind of from the perspective of Southern California in a charter setup.
Yes, that's right. So we are a part of Inspire Charter School, which is one of many charter programs. And within it, Inspire is available all through California. But they have, for every county, a different school they work with. And depending on where you live, you get assigned to that school and your teacher. And your funding is determined from that school and the amount of funding they get.
Okay, so they decide allocation, or is it just like a bank? They're holding it.
They distribute. They decide how much each child gets. And it's the same, right? If you are kindergarten through 5th grade, this is the amount of money you get no matter what.
So how has that allocated? And just in your experience, what kinds of experiences have your kids been able to have and extracurriculars that fell under the umbrella of homeschool?
Yes.
Before we go there, how much money are we talking? What's this dollar figure? Can we say that on air?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Pretty good.
It's pretty good. I'm not a numbers person, but I believe it was
round
something around $2,500 per student last year.
For the year.
For the whole
that
year.
You can allocate towards.
And we get I think 2 different payments throughout the school year, and then this year it was $1,800. And we can use it for all of our school supplies: pencils, pencil sharpeners, art supplies. We can buy science kits. We can use it for laptops and tablets. We can order directly from Amazon. There are a bunch of approved vendors for products and for services. And the services are what have been really unique and things that we would not have been able to do for our kids otherwise.
How has your comfort level developed from, you said you have a 9-year-old as your oldest, now having this kindergartner? Do you feel like, even though your kids are different and their personalities are different, do you feel like, I know what I'm doing now?
Oh, there's so much more like swagger than there was when our oldest was little. I would honestly have to say that I followed unknowingly much more of an unschooling philosophy in those early years. It was survival mode. Our kids within 3.5 years, we had 3 kids. And so it was survival until no one did school until everyone could do school, was essentially how we did it.
And so what was the first driver that said, yeah, homeschooling? Because default is like, oh, they're going to school. In fact, usually by the time they go to school, you're like, good job. Let's get you on your way.
Right.
We work from home. And so to have kids home with this distance learning thing, it kind of cramps our style, right? So yeah, to say, oh, well, why don't you just stay home for all 12 years of your, education would be a little daunting for me. But I can tell by the big smile on your face that you are thrilled by it. So tell me the why.
I do like it. The why is so important, which is again that like the importance of the distinction of the distance learning that so many people are going through right now versus that resonant choice of homeschooling. You have to have that resonance because it is not easy. It cramps your style big time.
But talk to us about your why. I really want
Sure.
That's the clinician in me. Like, I want to understand the why, because I really find it so fascinating and such an investment, right? Because in my profession, it's all about connection. Mm-hmm. And for some, I have some clients where I would be like, don't homeschool.
For sure. But I think we have to know ourselves enough and know
You'd be a really bad homeschool teacher. That's what you'd tell them. Hey, FYI, don't look into that.
No, that's more what I probably tell myself.
That's like, okay, Mom, maybe not you, but Dad, go for it, right?
I could be a tutor. I could be the tutor.
We love
part-time after-school tutor.
So yeah, I'm fascinated because I would imagine that it really doesn't have anything to do with education as it has everything to do with connection and
you hit it right on the head for sure. I had a very unique education experience growing up. I was either homeschooled or in private school until high school. But the private schools I went to were very small, and my grandparents actually started a school that I went to for 4 years from 5th through 8th grade. And it was such a unique experience, and it was very arts driven. It was all about, we had a fantastic art teacher. She also taught Spanish. We did a lot of drama and the learning style was so memorable. And there was time taken, and there was passion, and there was connection with the kids. It was very family oriented as well. I mean, not just because it was my grandparents, but I had several members of my family who worked there, but a lot of the other students did as well. And that made a big impact on me as far as what I envisioned for an experience for my kids. And that was probably one of the initial reasons why we wanted to go this direction.
Was it a longing for kind of what you experienced, to be able to give that to your kids?
Yes.
And,
Yes.
And you said we. So your husband, is he similar alignment, or is he like, Wendy, do what you want?
No, he and I are very aligned in this. We've both had all three education types of homeschool, private school, and public school. And he's so on board with it. I mean, I definitely do the brunt of the homeschooling, but that's only because of our schedules. And it's not at all because of a lack of desire on his part or a lack of value from him.
So he'll jump in, like he gets home and the kids need help or with a project or they have an extracurricular,
Yes.
and he's right there.
Yes. And he has his things that he's so brilliant at that are very different than the things that I thrive in. And that's perfect. It's very great to have different strengths.
And just to be clear, you both work outside of the home too.
We both work
You're
outside
not
of the
just
home.
sitting home all day doing homeschool. You have other responsibilities.
Correct. We both have jobs outside of the home, and we both have jobs inside of the home, and our kids are always home.
And they're young.
They're young, and we do all of their education. And we're starting a business for fun.
There you go, everybody. Wendy can do it all. That'll be our next 5 podcasts. We'll just have Wendy tell us how to do it.
Yeah, there's a balance, right? A work-life balance. And so how do you maybe give us some of the tools that have worked for you because now I think even that would be beneficial for parents who are doing online learning, right? Like learning how to balance the emotions of your child with their learning and with your schedule and the emotions that come along for you too, as you work with them and try to give them those opportunities to grow.
I think there has to be a level of authenticity and the ability to show your kids how fallible you are and how you make mistakes all the time, because they're constantly showing us that, right? I mean, they're always being 100% human with us, and they need to see us struggle because it's important for them to know how to witness that. And it's also important for them to know that it's okay.
Yes. And I think my daughter has been in the public school system, and then the mental health professional in me. So once a month, her whole life, we take a mental health day, and she picks it, right? And she picks what day she needs. And sometimes that mental health day was spent at Disneyland. Sometimes that mental health day was spent watching Netflix together or whatever it is. And I think it's important, whether you're homeschooling or in a public school sector or the private school sector or online learning, is really talking about this relational piece with your kids and the educative process, because there's education, but it's such a small part of their development, even though it's where they spend most of their time.
Yes. And that's why I put that in the intro, that it is our desire to raise our kids ourselves. We are wanting to be in it. And that is another why behind homeschooling. I know that if with our work schedule at Trader Joe's, we are a night and weekend type of business. It's retail. And if we had our kids in school 7-8 hours, 5 days a week, and then they came home and we went to work and we worked on the weekends, we wouldn't be able to raise our kids. And we wouldn't be the most significant relationships in their life in application, maybe in title, but not in actual relationship. And so now that we've made that choice, we do absolutely include times throughout the month where my husband, Kevin, and I each try to we date each child. And, we work it with our budget, and sometimes you'll get a date where we go out and we get frozen yogurt, and other times it's a date where we stay at home and we bake, or we do Netflix, or maybe we even make a batch of granola, Guy. It's super crunchy.
I make my own granola. And she does public school.
Hey, you guys can get together and make your granola anytime you want. There you go.
Super delicious.
It's better than any store-bought granola.
It is, and it's cost effective.
Yes, and you get so much bang for your buck. I mean, that's an episode. We'll do granola.
It is. You don't have to buy candles. The whole house smells great.
I only need like a cup of granola for like a year. I'm not a granola partaker. So.
Okay, get out of here. Go.
Well, that's good. I like hearing, because I think so much about emotional intelligence and emotional development. And so even with my daughter, if she comes home and has had a bad interaction with someone at school, or even receives a less than pleasing grade on something in her eyes, I like to go back to, how is she feeling? How do you feel about that? What do you think about your outfit? Who cares what someone else said about it? What do you think about yourself? And I've always been curious how that works in a homeschooling environment, because they're not having that peer interaction, which sometimes is really helpful, because some of the hardest things our kids experience isn't because of the education. It's because other kids can be cruel.
Right. It's that life experience piece.
Yeah. Like the classic sheltered, right? Like, so what do you do to, I don't want to say compensate, but, counteract or counterbalance that?
Yeah.
So that the kids still get experiences outside of the home, peers. How does that work for you?
We hang out with a lot of friends. We try to get out as much as possible, and friends with kids and friends who are just adults. I think that it's really important for them to have other adults in their life as well, and receive feedback from them. If they're misbehaving, it can be very powerful to have someone else who's not mom and dad point that out.
So part of your intentional being with this is to include that. It's not a afterthought. It's part of the education.
It is. And that's another one of the perks of the ability to use the charter funding for some of those extracurricular activities. So they're going to classes, they were doing parkour. This is pre-COVID, but they were doing parkour a couple of times a week.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which was so helpful for the wiggly 7-year-old. Can I just say that after, as soon as we went on lockdown, and I think the first time we had to miss parkour, he climbed a hedge and was planking on the hedge and just fell into it. And that hedge is not recovered. And he also broke a lamppost. It was devastating around the house.
I'd say you're failing as a parkour teacher.
Oh, yeah. I was like, all right. Okay,
I don't think that's how it's done.
We need some cushy materials around here, because parkour clearly is not ending, even though we're not going to the gym. Yes.
Yeah. Pad the walls and get some exercise mats instead of carpet.
But being able to, sending them to these parkour classes, I realized, in the first and second class that they were in, that I was watching and observing, and I was on the sidelines, saying, hey, pay attention to the teacher. Hey, do this. And then I had to stop myself, because I'm thinking, it's going to mean so much more when one of the other kids calls them out, or when the coach calls them out. And I also get a break. I can be here and have my back to the class, because it's not about me in this time. It's more about them, and bringing that intentionality.
And that creates balance too. For you to take that breath, and they have these other influences in their lives that you trust and have selected. And
yes.
So that makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
So speaking of balance, how do you balance it all? Working outside the home, working inside the home, starting your own business, homeschooling, making sure your kids have social interactions, a lot going on, right?
Sure. I'm getting a little sweaty just thinking about it.
I'm like, where's your Netflix time? I don't know.
I integrate screen time for myself big time. It's my number one favorite way to relax. So that might look like, I'm just going to cut straight to Netflix. You got me on a tangent there. But I will just watch shows while I do dishes. It's multitasking. It's the illusion of downtime. I'll have a show on Netflix on the tablet and make sure no one's in the kitchen, so I can cook or do dishes and things like that. And then at the end of the night, I do enjoy sitting down and having another show. But to answer the question of how do I do it all, it changes every day. I don't think there's ever a day where there's not a level of not accomplishing everything you want, but you have to have reality and expectations align at some point.
Yeah. Like what the listeners can't see is that Wendy is glowing right now. She's just beaming.
I told you I was sweating
But
just thinking about it.
No, I wasn't pointing that out. But you are very engaged. You love this. You love this. And so how does that translate to, I'll just be blunt, someone stuck in distance learning that does not love it? What advice or recommendations And we know it's different. You know, one is temporary, one's an intentional choice, you know. But what is it that if someone's like, homeschoolers, I don't even want it. And what can they take away to say, oh, I can make it, this will make it a little better?
Sure. I think the thing that lights me up and brings that glow is the honor of knowing my kids and taking the time to understand who they are, to see them get really frustrated with themselves, with learning, with me, with each other, to see them.
Wait, so your kids storm out of the room and throw their computer down? And
They do not throw their computer down because it's my computer.
Oh, okay.
And they would.
We have a 9-year-old that's a little feisty lately. He's figuring out his
Sure.
his anger boundaries, I think.
We talk dollars and cents a lot. It's like, that is my $1,800 computer, and you have, I think, $27.
Yes.
So you will never see another penny again until you're an adult and out of, so we talk very honestly about things like that. But yes, we do see all of the emotions, and there are a lot of days where it will take hours to get them to do a couple of pages.
Well, and that's what I think, what I hear you saying is during this time, the parents who did not make this intentional choice, right? Like this choice was put upon you, not choice. This is like the pandemic is saying your kids are going to learn at home and you're going to have to figure out how to make it work. And we're not going to train you or offer a lot of support. And so I think as parents, we need to support each other and kind of have that form, which is why I was so excited to hear from someone who's been doing this way before the pandemic, right? So this was so intentional. And I think a lot of homeschool parents have so much to offer the community anyway, but especially right now, because you have found joy in that choice. And teaching parents, like last night, I'm gonna throw my daughter under the bus. It was like 9:00 at night. She's struggling with a math problem. I can't remember how to do a slope to save my life. So my husband's 8th grade math. I'm like, I think I was in high school doing slopes. I do remember that. But so my husband gets home who still remembers that.
Wait, what's a slope?
I know, I've never heard of a slope.
Is this geometry? What?
She's figuring out, they're starting algebra. And so I just said, and pretty soon, in about 30 seconds, we went from I'm frustrated to the tears and it's done. And at that point, you're done. So I just had to get quiet and just take her hand and say, we're done. We're going to start again tomorrow. We're going to go to bed. We're going to say prayers, whatever we're going to do, right? We're going to settle down, whether it's meditate or we're going to do something to settle down. And I think when we can take that pressure off, because I can be the mom too, that's like, no, you're not going to bed till you're finished. You're going to finish.
I could be guilty of that too.
And sometimes I think when I have that moment where I'm like, this doesn't matter. This is going to be there in the morning. And if it's late, it's late. If you miss the credit, you miss the credit. This is 8th grade math. And it's more important to me that you feel good about who you are and you feel rested when you approach something that's really difficult for you. And I think for parents, we have to slow down our own minds because we're putting, I think, pressure. I know I feel pressure of like, is everything turned in? And she's like, sure. I think they feel that stress. And so I think because you've been doing this, how have you been able to allow your kids that breathing room?
Space. Well, you were just saying like getting control over your thoughts, and that I'm going to put my coach hat on for a moment because this is something that my husband and I have done additional work in. There's a book called Positive Intelligence, and there's a program that goes along with it that's all about getting some control over that mind chatter. And when your mind just takes you down that path and it's on that runaway, you're on that runaway train track, how do you stop? So the mental fitness piece has been so important for us. And it's been something that's been in our lives for about 6 months, and it's new. And that alone has revolutionized our ability to homeschool, to know our kids, to communicate with our kids, because we have a language now. We share it with them. We talk about, this is something you're familiar with, Guy, but your inner judge, your inner saboteur, that inner critic who's always, telling you all the things you should be doing or that you could have done differently and just hammering you down whenever it can. And so we love Star Wars in our house, and we use Star Wars all the time of, okay, I can see that you're going to the dark side.
I love
What
it.
is like
I love
how? Yeah, how are you going to? And they've assigned it.
You're
like,
being a little Jabba today.
yeah, or they've actually. I think our oldest has assigned his judge as the emperor. So I'm like, you are shooting lightning at your brother right
Ooh,
now,
yeah.
right? Or I can feel you like zapping me with lightning, or yourself, whatever that is, and being able to name it and call it out and allow them to be human, naming it when I do it, so that they can see that, of course, they're not the only ones. We joke around, and it's probably not the nicest thing, but sometimes we'll just like, razz each other like, oh, there's dad's on the dark side right now, that sort of thing, to normalize it.
Yeah. And it helps. Well, it also gives you permission to feel it.
It does.
And to experience it. And you're not a bad person because of negative feelings.
Right.
You're a human.
You're a human. And it gives them the awareness. So when they do acknowledge it and when they do feel themselves going down that road, they have a choice.
Yeah, they have a choice. And because it's been acknowledged and named, they're free to move on.
Mm-hmm.
They're not stuck in that space of, what is this? Why do I feel this way?
Right.
It's kind of we can say it, move on.
Right. And I talk to them about that when we're in those teaching moments and all of a sudden, oh gosh, they're on the dark side. And I'll just say point blank, I cannot teach the emperor. I can't teach the emperor. So when you're ready to be yourself again, I'm here for you. But I can't be the teacher of the emperor. You can't learn in this space.
I'm going to try using that in marriage counseling.
We use it a lot with couples too.
Yeah, I think it would be awesome. Like, just find a name it, right?
Just name it, because we all have it.
Jay, you're in the middle of your counts. I sense a dark force in this room. Emperor, be gone.
I'm picturing the Chewbacca mask that laughs, like you could have the Darth Vader mask. It would be great.
Right. And then so we talk about when you're in your Yoda or your Force mindset, look at how easy it is to do this.
Please tell me you speak like Yoda when you're in that mindset.
My Yoda is...
Please tell me you speak, you do.
I am awful with voices.
And I'm really bad at Yoda. That was a horrible Yoda.
Yeah, I was to say, you are too. Speak like Yoda, you want. I'm just awful at it. It ends up much more like a Fozzie Bear or something.
Hey, there's some listeners who don't know who Fozzie Bear is.
Well, yeah.
We're going to have to put a link in the show notes for the Muppet.
Yes. Yeah, so we do.
Awesome, Fozzie Bear. We went from the Emperor to Fozzie Bear. Sorry, you were saying the dark side.
I don't know. We'll run with Fozzie Bear. But I think it's important. I think that's the value of knowing knowing humans. That we're doing a lot together. We're doing a lot individually. It's going to be messy. It's going to be glorious. It's going to be everything in between. And we just get to be a part of it and each day show up and hopefully bring our Yoda and not our emperor.
I'm sensing that the education process with your kids isn't, I'm teaching my children. It's, I'm interacting with humans that are learning, and I'm being graceful and assisting where I can.
Yes. We tell them all the time, like our goal is to raise amazing men and women.
Well, I just feel renewed myself. Like, okay, I'm going to go home and feel better about this, because my challenge is in having an only child, where this isolation piece really bothers me more than her educational piece, and finding ways for me to be more intentional with her in a relationship aspect versus academic. And because the academics will come.
Yes.
I always joke that, it's like when my clients are worried about, even when you're potty training, I'm like, I never had a roommate that wet the bed. They will figure it out.
They will.
I mean, it's going to work out.
I'm a firm believer in that. There are going to be so many gaps that are going to show up based off of our experiences, my passions, my husband's passions. They're going to learn cursive writing because I use it every time I work at Trader Joe's as an artist, where they might not ever use it, but because it's something that's been significant for me, it's going to be a part of their learning. Same with baking and cooking. And we're much more interested in these life skills and some things that they can take with them when they leave us, because there are so many resources for furthering your education based off of what you're passionate about. And so we are looking at reading, writing, math, science, social studies, like the big, those big 4-5 things. And the rest is going to be, as those interests and passions show up, our ability to take on more versus their ability to pursue them when they're adults.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. So taking it back to the distance learners. So the compassion for yourself to teach from where you are and to keep the important things important and not sweat the small stuff and see it as a contribution to growing this human that is in your care instead of a babysitting job that you didn't sign up for.
Yes. Or instead of, I don't think anybody wants to be viewed as an inconvenience, right? That's a hard space to hold. And it is reality right now. This is not convenient. Distance learning is not convenient. Homeschool is not convenient. Doing it without making the choice is even extra inconvenient.
Right. And I think, don't you feel there's even a divide where there's like, oh, those homeschoolers, they just must be loving this.
Oh, yeah.
Right. They're dancing at home with their children right now.
Or there's even more of that. I would always get before, why would you ever choose that? I would never do that. And now there's almost more of that. Like I could never. And I see it a lot as it gets reflected as shame. I see that, some parents just don't think they can do it. And where that may be true for some, and I don't know everyone's experiences or everyone's financial abilities or, work capabilities. Thankfully, we have some leniency and some flexibility in those things. But I think every parent has the ability to know their kid, and every parent has the ability to invest that time and that intentionality with them. And that is what I consider the homeschooling so much more than the day in, day out. Okay, how many pages of math have they done? It's the relationship, it's the investment, it's the time.
Yeah. Kind of choose the perspective of take this opportunity to build that relationship, not so much be a substitute teacher.
Right. Because it's hard to be a substitute teacher if you've never been trained how to be a substitute teacher. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, everyone has a career for a reason, and everyone follows different paths for a reason. But if you're, no one chose the pandemic, no one chose all the changes. And so as we're working through that, to take inspiration from people who have chose those paths, it's a great perspective shift to say, oh, it's not all bad.
Yeah, there is something really important about having some set aside time. Again, like I'm not quite sure how the distance learning schedule is too much and how it looks in the day to day, but
I think it varies quite a bit depending on the school.
Okay.
Like our kids are pretty strict there. I mean, there's a pretty strict schedule, but then there's those times where you find them like in a breakout room by themselves, just sitting there.
Yeah.
Or I'm always surprised how often I can find my children reading a book or playing on the Switch, and you're like, wait, aren't you in class? Like that's Jamie, you asked like when lunchtime is for my kids. And I honestly don't know because it seems like it's variable, even though they swear it's the same time every day.
Well, I think so. The thing that is very different is as much as distance learning, you are all home together, but there might not be a lot of actual just parent and child time, right? The kids are doing school apart from the parents. It's just that everyone has to be home because of the age of their kids.
And I think that's what I'm really hearing is even though your kids are home all day, don't take that as time spent with your kids.
Yes.
Because they've been on the computer. And so it's really important then to say, okay, we're going to go for a walk which is Guy's favorite thing.
That's what I was going to say, because I feel for us, I have to build into our schedule time when we're not together, because otherwise, the 3 kids and myself, we are in, one room of the house, like the kitchen and the dining room all day otherwise. So we have to put in time where either they're playing and doing something without me, or they're getting some alone time if they want it.
A little breakout session.
But I would encourage the opposite almost of if you're all home together but not actually connecting, that even adds more frustration because you're not getting that time to fall back in love with each other again and to appreciate what everyone's contributing and everyone's thoughts and hearing how the day was. So I would encourage building in that time.
Yeah, I second that because it is funny how now that the kids are all in their classes, I mean, they kind of close their door and everyone has to kind of not intrude on the other Zoom calls. And you get to the end of the day and it's like they've been gone, even though they're physically there. I mean, they've come down for food or they need help with an assignment or something. So, I mean, personally, I think because there's less options to go out, we've been, focusing on family dinners, and it's a good time. Like, what funny thing happened in your Zoom calls today? What did you learn about today? What was really challenging? And the walks that you mentioned. We have these walks incessantly.
Like take a soccer ball and go kick it around for a little bit. The hedge planker, Thurston, our wild parkour kid, he likes to climb a tree and then have all of us throw soccer balls at him to try to hit him. So he just enjoys that rough and tumble stuff. So we will take a walk. Everyone gets a soccer ball. He climbs a tree and we just kick it and throw it and see if we can hit him. We never do because we're not very good.
Look at that homeschool family. What are they doing?
I know. So disclaimer, we never hit him.
No. Well, I know, I mean, I've gotten a lot out of this discussion. I think the listeners will too, because everyone is in this boat. But I know before we end, what's one thing you would leave with us? And then I just want to do a couple of minutes about Trader Joe's.
Of course. I would love to talk some shop about Trader Joe's.
Yeah. What's something you'd like to leave with our listeners about homeschooling, about you, about kind of your philosophies on thriving in this period of the season that we're in?
I think that the compassion piece, that grace for yourself, for your kids, for your spouse, this is all new for all of us. Even if we've been homeschooling before, or even if we have worked from home before, whatever that looks like, we are all dealing with some type of new right now. And that new has been ongoing and changing daily. And the frustrations are becoming, the frustrations are growing, and there's been a lot of shift. And we can't expect to do it well always. I'm not even going to use the word perfect because I think that's a ridiculous standard.
It's a swear word.
It is. It is. I just put my hands on my hips like such a mom. Yeah. But
are you guys going to fight right now? You going to fight?
No, we're going to fight. We're going to punch perfect. Yeah. That's what we're going to do.
I'm with you.
We're passionately.
We could make T-shirts, I think.
Right. I'll punch perfect in the face. So grace for yourselves. I mean, when in doubt, just stop and drink a cup of Earl Grey tea together. Your kids are going to stay up anyway. I mean, what? But just have those moments where you take a break. Like, as you said, there's another day for this. It's more important to feel loved and connected and appreciated and seen by the people who know you most than it is to figure out how to do this multiplication problem.
The slope will be there.
The slope will be there another time. Thankfully, quite a while away from me.
Unfortunately, the slope will still be there. Yeah. Okay, let's shift gears. Thank you so much. That's an awesome topic. I think it's very timely, and it's, I mean, just with our circle of friends, my wife, the homeschooling, the distance learning. There's days where it doesn't feel like enough, and then other days where you want to get all judgy and say, well, I'm doing it better than that person, or that person's not doing this. Yeah. So just to get the perspective, and again, the smile on your face this whole time, you are so in tune with this choice.
Thank you.
That you can see it.
Well, it helps. It helps to have a why. You have to remember why you're doing it. And if you don't have a why, find one.
Even if it's a pandemic why.
Yes.
Right? A temporary.
Because more than all of this, like, we have choices that we don't realize that we're making constantly every day. Yeah. And so claiming those choices, knowing that you're making those choices.
Claiming them, naming them.
Claiming them, naming them, and making them accordingly, that's a priceless thing to learn.
Yeah, I agree.
Very good. Okay, Trader Joe's. I'm going to have some quick round robin questions here. Okay. Favorite item at Trader Joe's?
Oh, my gosh. Can I have a few?
Okay.
Because they're like wise. I just like to gather them.
Do you eat them all together? Are they a combo?
Sure. Why not? I really love the honey whole wheat pretzel sticks.
Me too.
They are so good. Salt and vinegar potato chips. I have them in my car, in my console right now, because I bought them today and they were delicious.
Just disclosure, you came right from Trader Joe's.
Yes. They're there because I bought them for my lunch break, and they're still in my car.
Okay, I'm putting these on my list of things to try because I love salt and vinegar chips, but I've not tried Trader Joe's.
They're only $1.99 a bag.
Nice.
And I would say at least a third of them are the chips that have like folded in half and then folded in half again. So they're like these little quarter fold, super crunchy, nuggets of salty, tangy goodness.
Good to know.
Okay. Jamie, your favorite Trader Joe item?
What's my favorite Trader Joe item? It has to be Christmas Peppermint Joe-Joes.
The chocolate covered ones or the
Just
traditional?
the traditional ones.
Good
I
choice.
usually I go at Thanksgiving. I buy 25 boxes because I give them out to my neighbors and to
Yeah,
clients
that's
or
what
whatever.
everyone says.
And so I put a bow on them. And then at about December 17th, I make sure I have about at least 4 or 5 boxes in the pantry for later because I just buy them in one sitting because I found when I first discovered them, I kept going back each week and then they would run out.
They would run out.
And I was like, oh no. So I buy like 25 boxes in November.
Great.
And it gets me through the whole year.
There's wisdom in knowing there. May I make a suggestion?
Yes.
This year, will you put a box in the freezer and eat them straight from the freezer?
Oh, yes.
It's so good.
Yeah, I bet that was good.
That sounds like something my wife would like. All the treats go in our freezer or the fridge.
I'm that way.
Yeah.
Pretty much every snack goes straight to
And
the
I have to
freezer.
pull them out and let them like melt on the counter. I like
That's
my snacks
terrible.
warm. My wife likes them cold and hard. Okay. Best secret item or like secret thing you found at Trader Joe's that other people don't know about.
Great, because this is more naming of my favorite things.
Okay. Go, Wendy.
There's more. The yuzu hot sauce. Hands down. It's delightful.
Oh, I need to try that because I like hot sauce in any form.
What do you put it on? Because
One of my other
yuzu is
favorite-
kind of Asian, right? And then hot sauce is more Mexican Tex-Mex, right? What do you?
I mean, Asian food can be very, very spicy as well.
Is it more Asian flavor?
Not necessarily. No, I use it. The bean and cheese burritos from Trader Joe's are fantastic. The refrigerated black bean and jack cheese burritos. You would probably really not like them, Jamie, because of your bias
Because I'm so
toward,
snotty about it.
toward Mexican food.
Burrito. As long as we just acknowledge that it's not labeled as Mexican food, right?
No, I don't think that it is. But that burrito is fantastic. I suggest baking it in the toaster oven so it gets a little crispy on the outside, opening it up, letting that yuzu hot sauce free flow.
Oh, look at this. I
And
love these
it's so good.
inside scoop and baking tips. Look at this show.
Yeah, it's not just favorite items, it's preferred ways to eat said
How
items.
you prepare it. Okay, Jamie, what's your favorite secret item?
It's not a secret item, I guess. Well, actually, one of them is the gummy lobsters. Can we talk about those for a second?
Yes.
They're amazing. And I don't like gummy candy, but I had bought them I bought like 4 or 5 bags because they were on sale. And I was doing birthday boxes for a couple of my nephews who are going in college and stuff. And so I just opened one up while we were doing it. And I was like, oh, these are good.
Yes. So those are called Just the Lobsters. They are a spin-off from another very beloved product called the Scandinavian Swimmer, which is, as you may guess,
Like a Swedish fish.
a Swedish fish, a riff on that. So the red lobsters are one of 4 flavors.
They're
in the
pretty
bag.
good.
Somehow they got isolated when
What are the
clearly
flavors?
the blue shark is the best one. And somehow there's not a Just the Blue Shark bag, and there should be.
Yeah, well, you should write that in. But when I discovered the lobsters, those are a regular in the bag at Trader Joe's now because they're pretty tasty. But my go-to really is the pizza dough. We do calzones. It's great for family. Make your own pizza night. It's super cheap, and I love that there's whole wheat and herb, and I mean there's
You can
something
do
for
whatever.
everyone. Yeah,
They're perfect.
it's probably my favorite go-to at Trader Joe's.
Yes. Good.
Very good. Yeah, Trader Joe's. I'm not a frequent shopper at Trader Joe's, but we do find some fun things when we go there. Very good. Well, thank you so much, Wendy, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure talking to you. It's been very insightful.
Thank you.
It's been so nice to meet you, and I just can tell you just take good wherever you go.
Thank you so much. You guys, I appreciate you letting me do this.
Thank you for doing it. And we'll be in touch. Where can people, if people want to follow you or learn more about what you do, where can they connect with you?
Sure. I have a couple of different Instagram pages. One is my personal page where you can see art from Trader Joe's. There might be some.
Yeah, she's an amazing artist, by the way. Like, you kind of hid that when I first met you. And then I started seeing stuff you were posting. I'm like, you do that? That's beautiful. Like, really talented.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So I'll post Trader Joe's artwork on there. I will post pictures of fresh batches of granola and bagels. And I don't do tons of pictures of my kids. But we'll talk homeschooling and things like that. So that is Instagram at mrs.mrs.wendy.reeves, Reeves.
And it's Wendy with a Y.
Yes, WendyReeves.
Very nice.
And then for our business, for our coaching business, my husband and I are both coaches, as we mentioned, and we are on Instagram at a couple of coaches. And it's the same as the other. It's like a.couple.of.coaches.
So good to sit with you. And thank you for joining us on the Davenport.
Thank you for having me, Davenport.
Thanks so much for listening this week. Stay connected by following us on Instagram or Facebook at the Davenport Podcast. For more information on coaching services with Guy, visit his website, thecoachguy.net. For additional information regarding counseling services, the Daring Way curriculum, or relationship counseling, please go to jamiepyatt.lcsw.com.
The Davenport Podcast is provided for informational and entertainment purposes only. Although Jamie is a licensed clinical social worker and Guy is a professional life coach, the information and opinions shared by the hosts and their guests are not intended to be a substitute for professional, medical, or mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The information on this show does not create a client-therapist or coaching relationship and should not be taken as professional advice or guidance. Please consult with your physician or a qualified healthcare provider regarding any medical or mental health conditions.